All right, Mavs fans, buckle up, because today we're diving into something big. Mark Cuban just dropped some truth bombs about Luka Dončić and the controversial trade talks that had every Mavericks fan biting their nails. And guess what? Cuban says the front office completely misunderstood Luka, and he's not holding back. Welcome back to Mavs Insider, your #1 spot for everything Dallas Mavericks. Straight talk, real reactions, and insider takes you won't get anywhere else. If you're a real MFFL, Mavs fan for life, you're going to want to hear what Cuban just said about Luka Dončić. And trust me, it's going to stir the pot. Now let's rewind the clock a little. Luka Dončić, MVP candidate, walking highlight reel, and the heartbeat of the Dallas Mavericks, was at the center of some pretty intense scrutiny after the postseason. Rumors started flying. Is Luka out of shape? Is he mentally checked out? Can he lead this team to a title? And behind all of that noise was the possibility of a trade. Yeah, you heard me right, Luka, trade talk. But now, Mark Cuban, yes, the Mark Cuban, former majority owner, the guy who lived and breathed Mavericks basketball for over 2 decades, is speaking out. And what he's saying, it changes everything. During an interview with Stephen A. Smith, Cuban didn't hold back. When asked about the criticism Luka received for his conditioning, Cuban laid it out like this, and I quote, "Everybody saw it. It's not like he was shredded with a six-pack, but the biggest mistake in trying to understand Luka is this. He's from the Balkans, he's Slovenian. You look at Nikola Jokic, he's Serbian, and Serbian players in general, they think differently about the game, they think differently about life. The guys I've met from that region of the world are just different, and I don't think that was taken into account as fully as it should have been." Boom, there it is. And honestly, Cuban has a point. There's a cultural nuance here that often gets lost in NBA media hot takes. Guys like Luka and Jokic don't approach the game like the average American-born player. They're not about the glitz, the social media workouts, or showing off the six-pack. They're about feel, rhythm, IQ, controlling the game at their own pace. And guess what? It's been working. Luka has already accomplished more in his early NBA years than most players do in a decade. Now here's the part the critics always seem to skip over. Luka didn't just roll into training camp out of shape for no reason. After last season's grueling playoff run, he didn't get a chance to rest. He immediately began prepping for the Olympics with Slovenia. And although they didn't qualify, the damage was done. His body never had time to heal. That led to a preseason calf injury, and more importantly, a domino effect that bled into the regular season. By the time he was back in rhythm, the noise around the front office had gotten so loud that Nico Harrison, Mavs GM, was reportedly ready to move on. But here's where it gets really spicy. Cuban said flat out, if he were still the majority owner, that trade never would have happened. Period. Let that sink in. The face of the franchise. The guy who gave Dallas its first ever NBA championship. The engine behind our current roster was almost gone, and Cuban would have stopped it. Of course, we've got to be fair. Cuban isn't escaping all responsibility here. He admits he deserves some of the blame. After all, he chose to sell the team, and in doing so, he also gave up any real say in the decision-making process. He didn't get anything in writing to secure his voice in basketball operations. Instead, he trusted the new ownership group to do right by the franchise. And we're seeing now that trust may not have been entirely well placed. Look, Mavs fans, how would you have felt if Luka had actually been traded? Would you have stuck around? Would you have stayed loyal through a full rebuild? Because let's be real, you don't. Trade a generational talent like Luka Dončić. You build around him. You protect him. You invest in understanding who he is, not just what he can do with a basketball. We're talking about a guy who puts up 38-8 on a regular night, embarrasses defenders, and makes game-winning step-backs like it's just another Tuesday. He's not just a superstar, he's our superstar. And here's the good news. Luka is still here. He's healthy, focused, and absolutely balling out this season. He's leading the Mavs with that same fire, that same swagger, and that same clutch gene we fell in love with from day one. The front office might have flirted with disaster, but they didn't pull the trigger. And now, with Kyrie finding his rhythm, our supporting cast stepping up, and Luka back in MVP conversations, the Mavs are poised to make noise in the playoffs. We've got a window, Mavs fans, and Luka is the key. So here's the deal. Mark, Cuban's comments shine a light on something we all need to remember. Luka isn't just another player. He's a once-in-a-generation talent who deserves more than hot takes and lazy criticisms. He deserves our full support. Now I want to hear from you, Mavs Nation. Do you think the front office made a mistake by even considering trading Luka? Should Cuban have fought harder to keep decision-making power when he sold the team? And most importantly, what would you build around Luka to get us back to the finals? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Smash that like button if you believe in Luka, and if you're new here, hit that subscribe button and join the family. We're building a community of real Mavs fans who keep it every step of the way. This is Mavs Insider, and we're just getting started. Catch you in the next one. Let's go, Mavs.